You're listening to the Inbound Logistics Podcast with today's guest, Mike Kucharski of JKC Trucking. The trucking industry is a vital component of the global supply chain, but it continues to face challenges that, for better or worse, truckers are forced to navigate. Regulations, EPA mandates, and the rising cost of fuel are just some of the factors that the industry has to juggle to keep trucks on the road. What then is the path forward for truckers in light of all of these obstacles? Mike Kucharski, co-owner and vice president of JKC Trucking, shares his take on the future of trucking. Joining us today on the Inbound Logistics Podcast, Mike Kucharski of JKC Trucking returns to talk to us about EPA regulations and the future of trucking. Mike, thank you so much for coming back to the show.
No, thank you for having me on your show again. It's a pleasure.
It's great to have you back. Mike Kucharski, co-owner and vice president of JKC Trucking. Mike, we're talking to you about an article that you recently had online about EPA regulations and looking into the future of trucking. Talk a little bit about who you are first, if you could. Give us an introduction and tell us a little bit about you and JKC Trucking.
Yeah, I'm Mike Kucharski. I'm the vice president of JKC Trucking. We're a trucking company from Illinois. We specialize in shipping temperature-controlled LTL food products, frozen, refrigerated, from the Midwest to the West Coast, with 2 locations in California. We have one in Northern California, Stockton, and then we have a location in Santa Fe Springs, which is East LA. We are a family business, which my father started, living the American dream by starting his own business. We pretty much deliver food to all the food suppliers and groceries, feeding the American people.
Excellent. Being fed is always good. So, Mike, the trucking industry obviously is something very important to you. You mentioned feeling hopeful about the future of the industry under the Trump administration. What specific changes are you hoping to see that would benefit truckers?
Yeah. So I have 4 to 5 points that I would love to think. So we're excited and hopeful this new administration will help with these issues that are killing the trucking industry. Number one, and we've all talked about this, skyrocketing diesel. Skyrocketing diesel is killing all the truckers. It's a side effect causing inflation. It's trickled down to the end user, the American people. We need to make America energy independent again. Last term, President Trump made America energy independent again. We were doing really well. And I think we should go back to that. I'm sick and tired if a bomb goes off on the other side of the world, that energy rates skyrocket, and 2, overregulation in the trucking industry is a struggle. We're all overregulated in the trucking industry, especially the haulers like us hauling food. I believe when we're hauling perishables and frozen, feeding the American people, we should have a little bit less regulation, especially on hours of service. When we're hauling strawberries from California to, Illinois. And you know what? History shows less regulation helps increase commerce. That's a fact. Less regulation boosts business activity, leading to freight movement. I think little less regulation would be great for all of us truckers. 3, we're dealing with something called nuclear verdicts, protection for truckers from nuclear verdicts. Nuclear verdicts are these excessive lawsuits and excessive payouts. This administration has the power to protect truckers because we don't have no protection right now. One, the new administration can help out by, putting caps on these excessive payouts and damages. Let me give you an example. A couple years in Florida, somebody was awarded $1 billion for like a 2 to 4 trucking operation. Wow. That's never going to happen. That trucker probably said, hey, look here, take whatever my insurance pays out, kiss my mud flats, I'm out, 2, raise the burden. Yeah. To raise the burden of proof for these claims against truckers and trucking companies. I feel people get these nuclear verdicts happen with this very limp evidence. They just convince a jury with this, evidence. They paint a picture and they go with it. And then 4, my 4th point is insurance reform, to address the rising insurance costs. And I would say these costs are driven by nuclear verdicts. Over-the-road truckers, our insurance has gone up so much, we can't get as much coverage as we used to. We used to get up to $10 million. Now to get $10 million, I'd probably have to pay $20 million. It's just ridiculous, to get this kind of coverage before. And truckers like myself, long-haul over-the-road truckers are being punished by this, and all we're trying to do is how's this? Make a little money and feed the American people, and we're being punished, especially because we're high risk. Insurance companies say, "Hey, look, you're high risk. You're paying. You want $1 million in insurance? You got to pay over $1 million of fees to get that coverage." And number five, I threw in here would be tax cuts. When Trump was last in office, his administration greatly reduced taxes for small businesses and owners specifically that qualified for the business income deduction, the QBID, I think it was called, reduced taxes by thousands of dollars. Not only were his standard cuts good for small businesses like JKC Trucking and other trucking businesses that are listening, and businesses across America, when taxes are lower, people feel more confident to purchase goods, which increases the needs for trucking companies like mine to deliver these goods. Everybody wants to save some money, and when they save some money, they like to spend it. I think it's good. It's overall good for the whole economy.
Right, right. There's some other concerns that you raised, particularly about California's stricter emission standards. How are these regulations affecting truckers across the U.S., particularly in states like Illinois, like you mentioned?
Yeah, all trucking companies are paying for more for new trucks. Why? Because California decided to put the DEF filters that California only requires, in my opinion, that don't work well, like to break down and freeze on the road. And what happens when your DEF system goes into limp mode or breaks down, it loves to go into limp mode. And you could go 5 miles an hour down the highway. You probably have to get towed to a dealer. The dealer will want to replace the whole system. After replacing the whole system, and then not always a whole system, but the costs are excessive. These sensors, thousands of dollars. And the bigger issue we're having is on the road. This technology is pretty new. Everybody's trying to fix it, and everybody thinks they could fix it. But there's times that I'll throw a lot of money at a truck, and it's still not fixed. They can't. I gotta get out of derate mode, which is a problem. And truck repair costs are crazy high. The best part of these systems, they use DEF fluid, which is urea. And California, mandated systems, but California is now banning DEF fluid. Well, that's kind of crazy. That's like saying you need the COVID vaccine to protect you from COVID, but the vaccine's illegal in California. It just blows my mind. But another a fact that I want to point out is that a couple years ago, I bought a couple trucks from Mexico, a trucking company that was bringing produce to the border. And I got a good deal on these trucks, and they're very low miles. They're brand new Volvos. And I said, "Why are you selling me these trucks?" He goes, "Well, because how's this? In Mexico here, I could order brand new Kenworths with no DEF systems, and they're much cheaper because they don't have the system. And, you know, I don't have to worry about the truck going to limp mode, blah, 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 blah. I don't have to worry about these things. We just run them." I was like, "Oh, okay. That's news to me." And I mean, America's pushing for these, regulations, but look, how's this? Mexico doesn't use them. They don't care. China doesn't use them. India definitely doesn't use them. If we're gonna make better, how's this? If we're gonna do something better for the environment, everybody has to be on board. If America makes it, how's this? It doesn't matter if tomorrow we wake up and somehow we're all electric, and the Mexico, the rest of the world is not using it. What's the point here? This is my opinion, but.
Right, right. Well, that out of state overreach has definitely caused concern for owner operators and carriers across the country. Is that over and done with, or can all of this be reversed after Trump leaves office?
You know what? This is a great question. I I pray it does, because banning diesels at this point is impractical and impossible. How is this? Let's talk about this. I was doing another interview, and a doctor engineer came on and he said, "Listen, the reason America has not moved away from diesel is because we haven't found another fuel better than diesel. Diesel is good for torque, and trucks use torque. We're using torque to pull these loads across the U.S., through the mountains, desert valley, you call it. And we haven't found a better fuel than the diesel. And how's this? I just want to say I support green energy, and I believe all truckers support green energy. But if we find something better than diesel, I think truckers will be drawn to it. You won't have to mandate stuff like this. This reminds me of Todd Spencer from OIDA. President said, if you're talking about something that actually really does deliver benefits for all around, you don't have to mandate stuff like that. people gravitate to it. They go after it and say, I want it because it makes everything better. How about we come up with something that the truckers will like and go from there instead of banning diesels. And but people forget that, look, you still need diesel to mine lithium. You still need diesel to do everything else. But nobody wants to talk about that. They just want to talk about the
Right.
good times.
Well, let's touch on that because you mentioned this the last time that we had you on. But as you said, you are in favor of green energy alternatives. However, you have stressed that that infrastructure is not ready for prime time yet, right? Especially for those the mandates that are so strict. So what do you think needs to be done then in order to make the transition to electric vehicles more feasible for the industry?
Yeah, so last time I was on, I said, look, costs are astronomical to infrastructure. We're not Power grid's not there, not enough charging station testing data being done right now, which is kind of scary. The driving range, or I love to call it range anxiety right now, is not for long distance driving. The max you could get out is like 300 miles. My driver, when he fills up full tanks, 300 gallons, goes from Chicagoland area all the way to Cheyenne, Wyoming, before he runs out. So that's not going to work. And then due to these heavy batteries, there's going to be less cargo capacity due to weight. But what we need is how's this to make this happen? We're going to need a miracle and alien technology. Why? Why? Let me break it down. Number one, if we move from diesel, this technology must be better than the current technology. What I mean? How's this? We need to charge a battery, like let's say within half hour. Okay, that will be able to go a long way. And not burden the power grid. I would love to have 2, 3 batteries in backup just in case one goes dead. My driver could switch to another one and keep going. We're not there yet with the technology, and if we're there, it's not available for use. It's just not there right now.
Are there other environmental issues that truckers have to contend with?
The biggest issues we're dealing with is EP regulations that California is driving. Let's say you're a trucker that doesn't run to California and you want to buy a new truck. You have to spend another $40,000-$50,000 extra for this technology that you don't need, and it breaks down. Other than that, I think we're dealing with enough issues other than the hot summers we're having.
Good segue. Speaking of California's hot summers, can you elaborate a little bit more on the challenges you faced during the 23 California heat wave when EVs were advised against charging?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, the heat was so extreme. We had problems cooling and delivering the product at temp with diesel units, which are much more powerful than electric units. When you have rolling days of 100 degrees and we're cracking doors, nonstop, because sometimes on trucks there'll be 3 to 16 stops, and we're cracking the door to deliver some product here, closing the doors, delivering. And that heat, the unit wasn't made for extreme heat like that. They said it could, but the product's temperature starts raising. We have issues, and then we have quality issues. Customers don't want to take it. They blame us, saying that we didn't do our job. But those are not our issues, because that's just the environment we're dealing with. And my favorite thing is that you bring this up, about this, that there was a news anchor, a woman, that was saying, hey, look, they went on the news and said, look, don't plug in your electric cars, the grid is overheated. Don't turn your thermostats on in California because the grid is overheated. Don't do laundry because the grid is overheated. And this anchor went on TV. She goes, well, what do you guys expect me to do? And she's right. And in California, how's this? If I had to guess, California has 600 to 800,000 big rig trucks. Okay. Imagine plugging in all those trucks overnight to charge, or just charging them 24/7. There's no way California has that. And this is where I say alien technology, because they would have to have like some crazy source that we could tap into to charge these trucks, and it's not there yet, not that I know of.
Right. Okay. Well, if Congress does decide to strike down the emission waiver from California, what would that mean for the trucking industry as a whole?
I mean, like I said, California is the main engine behind this in theory. It sounds great in theory, but in reality, this does not work. Like I mentioned earlier, the 5 points that why these electric trucks won't work. How's this? And California now is kind of backing up out of its thing. I think they've got a breath of common sense. They were pushing this, electric, 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 but right now it's just not feasible. You can't do it. It's impractical and impossible. You know what I mean? I think California has to rethink this. They got to look at this with some common sense. I mean, how are we going to roll all this out when they're struggling right now as it is?
All right. Now that request that you mentioned to the EPA appears to have been withdrawn because the new administration might be eliminating the EPA mandates across the country. That there's a little bit of confusion around what's going on there. Do you have any more clarification on what the most recent status of that is?
I mean, it's kind of confusing because it's kind of vague. But what they're kind of saying is that, oh, we need to rethink this because, and they're not saying this directly, of course. What I read, they're saying, look, we need to come up with a different game plan because they're not admitting to it. But there's what I read from it, in my opinion, is that it's not going to work right now. We need to come up with another solution. How's this? Let me give you a perfect example. When California was burning, Oregon sent 80 fire trucks to California to help put California out. And those 80 fire trucks, they had to go to Sacramento, get inspected for EPA conditions. How crazy is that? You know what I mean? And that's a fact. You could look this up because I read this and there's multiple, I've seen this multiple places. I mean, how's this? I don't care. When California was hundreds of thousands of acres burning per minute, I don't care what kind of equipment you send me. If it, releases black smoke in an environment, well, California's already burning. As long as it pushes out fire, and then that's just like cutting your legs off, and you want to go for a run. That's just craziness. You know what I mean? How that was an emergency. How did they not allow those trucks? I mean, how was those trucks brought to Sacramento for inspections, and the fires are nowhere near Sacramento? It just blows my mind. But I mean, how's this? My father always said that common sense was a gift from God. Not everybody got it.
All right, all right. In terms of the technology that can be used across the U.S., you mentioned the need for that rather than having state-specific mandates. Now, what kind of nationwide solutions do you think would work for the trucking industry?
Yeah, this is a great question. And I think a lot of truckers would agree with me about this. The truckers need, number one, affordable truck. Okay. Nothing that costs 4 times more. Okay. Because truckers are set up right now to pay off the truck in 5 years, get some use out of it, and start all over again. They need a hybrid truck, I would say with 2 systems of power. Because if one shuts down or breaks, the other one continues. I mean, I would love to see a truck with 3 systems because right now, when my diesel goes down, I'm dead in the water. It's ridiculous. I would love to have at least an electric something a backup so I could get off the road, make it to one of my terminals, repair shop, etc. And the more important things is they love to push this technology before it's proven. Truckers need a proven technology. Why? Because if this technology fails, the entire supply chain will be dead in the water. And failure is not merely inconvenient, it's gonna be catastrophic. This is not an option, especially for the food supply chain of the American people, which we are hauling.
All right, what do you see then is the path forward across the U.S. given the new administration?
I mean, how's this? We need to sit down and figure these things out. Oil's not going anywhere. We still need diesel until we figure out another thing. I'm very excited about the hybrid trucks coming out. I mean, I think hybrid might be the solution. I still haven't driven a hybrid truck or seen one in person. I mean, hybrid would be great. I think they're telling me that water vapors come out of the exhaust. I think the hydrogen would have enough power to push these trucks through these high elevations that we struggle with. They'd probably be able to get through Death Valley and all these places. But like I said, I mean, I haven't seen them. I know a lot of companies are retooling these engines for that. I'm a fan of hybrid. You mean one thing that everybody forgets talking about? The hydrogen is a very dangerous gas. Very explodable. I mean, I remember my history lessons, but whatever technology we move forward with, it's not going to be all positives. There's always a negative with a positive. So we have to just choose one that works the best and go with that. But yeah, I'm very excited to see these hydrogen engines. I want to see how they're going to work in elevations through the cold, -50 in Montana, all this good stuff. Yeah.
All right, so until all of that comes to fruition, do you expect other state EPAs to fight the tossing of the environmental standards around diesel and the EV mandates?
Yes, I mean, and what the most frustrating part is a lot of these blue states are gonna, say, "Oh, we support California," but like, how about this? Did you think it through? You know what I mean? How's this? I mean, we all want better things to happen. I know there's a handful of states that follow California's lead, and like Washington, Oregon, those, and there's a handful of others. But I mean, if they do say this, what are they gonna what is there gonna be an explanation to move forward with this technology? Because how's this? California right now looks like they're pumping the brakes on this situation.
Right, right. What about the cost of diesel? You touched on that a little bit. Given all the challenges, do you see the new admin actually being able to cut fuel costs to help out the truckers?
Well, number one, Trump is, saying, yes, drill, baby, drill. And I think that's a good idea. I mean, because how's this? We have enough oil here, probably lasts us 100 years. And we need to use that. I'm sick and tired of buying oil from other countries, the Arab countries or Russia, and now I can't buy from Russia. But I mean, we need to be energy independent, because how's this? If we learned anything during COVID, it just showed us how reliable we were on the rest of the world, fuel wise, technology wise. I mean, it was just, how's this? We need diesel to come from the States so we could tap into it to keep these prices, decent. Because these skyrocketing diesel costs are killing truckers and killing the American people with inflation.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff to chew on and to think about. If the audience wants to find out more information about some of your thoughts about the JKC Trucking, where can I send them?
Yeah, you could go to jkctrucking.com. If you're looking for a career change to be a truck driver, you could go to jobs@jkctrucking.com. And there's those two places will give you enough information about us.
All right, and we do need our truckers, so go and check that out. Mike Kucharski, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for enlightening us on all of the challenges facing truckers with all of these emissions regulations. Best of luck to you and to JKC Trucking.
Thank you for your support.
Inbound Logistics Magazine is the information leader in supply chain and logistics management. Start your free print and digital subscription today by visiting bit.ly/getil. That's bit.ly/get_IL and stay ahead of the 3PL game.
The Inbound Logistics Podcast is a production of Inbound Logistics Magazine. For the most in-depth information around logistics, transportation, and supply chain practices, get your free print and digital subscription at inboundlogistics.com/subscribe. Connect with us via LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube for the most current developments in the industry. If you'd like to leave us some feedback or have a topic you'd like to see covered in a future episode, call our dialogue line at 888-878-3247 or leave us an email at podcast@inboundlogistics.com. I'm your host, Jeff Vita. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time here on the Inbound Logistics Podcast.